She was hired to tutor the daughter, but it was the distractingly beautiful mother with a secret past who became her most captivating lesson. A lesson in desire, risk, and a love that could shatter the careful life they'd both built. This is one of many heartfelt lesbian romances we'll share with you. Subscribe now to join us on the journey. The first time Elara saw Maya, she was holding a stack of freshly graded geometry quizzes and trying very hard not to notice the way the afternoon sun caught the copper highlights in Maya's auburn hair. Elara was the new tutor, hired to rescue Maya's 16-year-old daughter, Chloe, from the clutches of failing algebra. Maya was the concerned and distractingly beautiful mother who answered the door. "You must be Elara. Please, come in. I'm Maya." Her voice was a warm, melodic contralto that did something peculiar to Elara's equilibrium. She wore dark jeans that hugged her hips and a simple black sweater that did nothing to conceal a generous, elegant figure. She was, in a word, breathtaking. "It's a pleasure to meet you," Elara managed, her own voice feeling thin in comparison. She followed Maya into a house that was all light and art, with books piled invitingly on every surface. It felt like a home, warm and lived in, a stark contrast to the sleek, minimalist apartment Elara rented. Chloe was a sullen but bright girl, resistant at first, but Elara's patient, intuitive teaching style began to chip away at her defenses. The weekly sessions became a fixture. Every Tuesday at 4 p.m., Elara would arrive, and Maya would be there, offering her a cup of tea or coffee, their fingers sometimes brushing during the exchange, sending a jolt of electricity up Elara's arm that she was certain was not one-sided. The glances started small. A shared look of amusement over Chloe's dramatic sighing. A sympathetic smile from Maya when Elara looked particularly tired after a long day of teaching at the university. Then the glances grew longer, heavier with unspoken words. Elara would catch Maya watching her from the doorway as she taught, a soft, unreadable expression on her face. Elara, in turn, found her eyes tracing the line of Maya's neck, the confident sway of her walk, the way she bit her lip when she was concentrating on a work email. Elara was 28, with a life that felt carefully constructed but somehow incomplete. She had a PhD in mathematics, a tenure-track position, and a dating history of pleasant, intelligent women who never quite managed to disturb the calm surface of her existence. Maya was 39, a freelance graphic designer, a force of nature who had built a beautiful life for herself and Chloe after a divorce from a man she'd married out of youthful confusion. She hadn't been with a woman since college, a part of herself she had neatly boxed away and labeled youthful experimentation. One rainy Tuesday, Chloe was particularly frustrated. "I just don't get it. It's pointless," she exclaimed, throwing her pencil down. "Why don't we call it a night, sweetheart?" Maya said from the doorway. "You've been at it for 2 hours. Your brain is full." Chloe didn't need telling twice, grabbing her phone and disappearing upstairs. The house suddenly felt very quiet, the only sound the gentle patter of rain against the windows. "Can I get you a drink?" Maya asked. "Something stronger than tea. I feel like I owe you for putting up with that." "A glass of wine would be lovely," Elara said, her heart beginning a slow, heavy rhythm against her ribs. They sat in the living room, on opposite ends of the large sofa, but the space between them felt charged, like a magnetic field. They talked about everything and nothing: books, art, the absurdity of academic politics, the challenges of raising a teenager. The bottle of Pinot Noir slowly emptied. "I have to ask," Maya said, her voice softer now, her gaze direct and unflinching. "Is there someone waiting for you at home?" Elara shook her head, her mouth suddenly dry. "No, there hasn't been for a while." She gathered every ounce of her courage. "And you?" Maya looked down at her wine glass, swirling the deep red liquid. "There was a man. A long time ago. But my heart was never really in it. Not the way it was supposed to be." She looked up, and her eyes were dark pools of honesty and vulnerability. It was easier, back then, to follow the script. Elara understood. She knew that look, that tone. It was the sound of a door opening after being closed for a very long time. "The script is overrated," she whispered. The space between them on the sofa seemed to shrink. Maya leaned forward, placing her glass on the coffee table. The movement brought her closer. Elara could smell her perfume, something like jasmine and sandalwood, warm and intoxicating. Elara, Maya breathed her name, and it was a question, a plea, and a statement all at once. That was all the permission Elara needed. She closed the distance, her hand coming up to cup Maya's jaw, her thumb stroking the incredibly soft skin of her cheek. She paused, a millimeter from Maya's lips, giving her one last chance to retreat. Instead, Maya let out a soft, shuddering sigh and closed the gap. The kiss was not tentative. It was a conflagration. It was the answer to a question they had both been asking silently for weeks. Maya's lips were soft and tasted of wine and desire. Her hands came up to tangle in Elara's dark, curly hair, pulling her closer. Elara felt the world tilt on its axis, all her carefully ordered equations and theorems dissolving into the pure, undeniable logic of Maya's mouth on hers. They broke apart, breathless, foreheads resting together. "Oh," Maya whispered, her eyes wide with wonder and a flicker of fear. "I wasn't expecting that." "Neither was I," Elara admitted, her voice husky. "But I've been wanting to." The affair began that night, in the quiet, rain-soaked darkness of Maya's bedroom. It was a revelation. For Elara, it was about finding a passion that matched her own intensity, a connection that was intellectual, emotional, and fiercely physical. For Maya, it was like coming home after a long exile in a foreign country. She rediscovered a part of herself she had forgotten, a part that was bold, hungry, and unafraid to take what she wanted. Their trysts were stolen and intense. Long, lazy Sunday afternoons when Chloe was at a friend's house. Quick, frantic encounters before Elara's evening classes. They explored each other with a sense of wonder and desperation, as if making up for lost time. Elara learned the landscape of Maya's body, the soft curve of her hip, the sensitive spot behind her ear, the way she arched her back and cried out Elara's name when she came. Maya worshipped Elara's sharp mind and her tender heart, discovering the strength in her slender frame and the surprising dominance that lay beneath her quiet exterior. They were careful, so careful. Their secret was a fragile, precious thing. But love has a light of its own, and it casts a shadow. Chloe began to notice the change in her mother. The new lightness in her step, the way she hummed absently while cooking, the sudden interest in new lingerie. The confrontation happened one evening after a tutoring session. Chloe had aced her latest test, and Elara was packing her bag, sharing a secret, proud smile with Maya. "You know, I'm not stupid," Chloe said, her arms crossed, leaning against the doorframe of the living room. Both women froze. "Chloe, what are you talking about?" Maya asked, her voice carefully neutral. "I see the way you look at each other. The quick coffee that lasts for 2 hours after I go to bed. Mom, you're practically glowing." Chloe's voice wasn't angry, but it was sharp with betrayal. Are you seeing my tutor?" The silence in the room was deafening. Elara's heart hammered against her chest. This was it. The beautiful, illicit thing they had built was about to shatter. Maya looked from her daughter's hurt face to Elara's terrified one. She took a deep breath, and Elara saw the moment she made her choice. She walked over to Elara and took her hand, lacing their fingers together. The gesture was simple, but it was the most courageous thing Elara had ever witnessed. "Yes, Chloe," Maya said, her voice steady though her hand trembled in Elara's. "We are. I'm in love with Elara." Chloe's face crumpled. "How could you? She's my tutor. And a woman. What does that mean? Was Dad just a mistake?" "Your father gave me you," Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. "And I will always be grateful to him for that. But my love for him was different. It was what I thought I was supposed to do. With Elara, this is who I am. I should have told you. I was scared." Elara squeezed Maya's hand, offering her strength. "Chloe, your mother is the most honest, caring person I know. She was only trying to protect you." "I don't need protecting. I need the truth," Chloe yelled, tears finally spilling over. "I need to not feel like a stranger in my own house." She turned and ran upstairs, her bedroom door slamming shut. The aftermath was a special kind of agony. Chloe refused to speak to either of them for days. Elara offered to stop coming, her heart breaking at the thought, but Maya refused. "We are not a secret, and we are not a mistake," Maya said, her jaw set with a determination Elara adored. "We will give her time. But I won't hide you away." Weeks passed in a tense truce. Elara and Maya saw each other less, their conversations filled with worry. They missed each other with a physical ache, their phone calls late at night filled with whispered reassurances and longing. The turning point came from an unexpected source: Chloe's algebra grade. She'd continued to excel, and she was nominated for a special academic award at school. At the ceremony, Maya sat alone, her heart aching with pride and loneliness. Then, she saw Elara walk in and take a seat a few rows behind her. She hadn't been invited, but she'd come anyway, for Chloe. When Chloe's name was called, she walked to the podium, accepted her certificate, and looked out at the audience. Her eyes found her mother's, shining with tears of pride. Then they shifted to Elara. For a long moment, everyone held their breath. Then, Chloe gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Afterward, as everyone milled about in the school hall, Chloe approached them. She looked from her mother to Elara. "You came," she said to Elara. "Of course I did. I'm so proud of you," Elara said, her voice sincere. Chloe swallowed hard. "I'm still mad. And it's still weird." She looked at her mother. "But I see how happy she makes you. And you're a better tutor than any of the others." It was a peace offering, fragile and precious. The healing was slow, but it was real. Chloe and Elara began to forge their own relationship, separate from Maya. They bonded over a shared love of terrible science fiction movies and a mutual adoration of Maya. It wasn't perfect, but it was a foundation. A year later, on a crisp autumn day, Elara took Maya back to the university campus where they'd first met for a parent-tutor conference. They walked through the quad, hand in hand, the fallen leaves crunching under their feet. "I never thought I'd get this," Maya said, squeezing Elara's hand. "A second chance to get it right. To be truly, completely myself." Elara stopped and turned to face her. The setting sun framed Maya in a halo of golden light, and she looked so beautiful it stole Elara's breath. This was it. The moment she had been planning for weeks. "Maya," she began, her voice trembling slightly. She dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from her pocket. Gasps and excited whispers erupted from the students milling around them, but Elara saw only Maya. "You are my greatest surprise, my most beautiful equation. You and Chloe are my home. Will you marry me? Will you let me love you for the rest of my life?" Maya's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. She nodded, unable to speak for a moment. "Yes," she finally choked out, pulling Elara to her feet and into a crushing kiss. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The small crowd of students broke into applause and cheers. Their wedding was held in Maya's backyard, under a canopy of twinkling lights. It was filled with their friends, colleagues, and chosen family. Chloe was the maid of honor, beaming as she stood by her mother's side. Maya wore a gown of ivory lace that hugged her curves, her auburn hair piled elegantly on her head. Elara wore a sleek, tailored tuxedo jacket over delicate lace top and trousers, her dark curls loose around her shoulders. They were a vision of contrast and complement, a perfect balance. As they exchanged vows they had written themselves, their voices were strong and clear, filled with a love that had been tested and had emerged unbreakable. "I, Maya, take you, Elara, to be my wife. You who saw the real me hiding in plain sight, and who had the courage to call me out into the light. You are my favorite story, and I can't wait to read the rest of it with you. I, Elara, take you, Maya, to be my wife. You who disrupted all my careful patterns and showed me that the most beautiful solutions are often the most unexpected. You are my home, my heart, my forever." They sealed their promises with a kiss, and as they pulled apart, their foreheads resting together just as they had that first night, the world felt perfectly, brilliantly in balance. They were no longer a tutor and a student's mother having a secret affair. They were simply Elara and Maya, wives, partners, a family. And their story, passionate and profound, was just beginning. The final vow. The backyard was a constellation of twinkling lights and joyful faces, but for Elara, The entire universe had narrowed to the woman standing before her. Maya, radiant in ivory lace, her auburn hair catching the last of the evening sun, looked at her with tears shining in her eyes and a love so profound it made Elara's breath catch. Their voices were steady as they exchanged the vows they had written, words that wove together the story of their past. The stolen glances, the rain-soaked confession, the painful confrontation, and the hard-won peace. They spoke of disrupted patterns and favorite stories, of being called into the light and finding a forever home. "I do," Maya said, her voice a warm, melodic promise. "I do," Elara echoed, her heart swelling until she thought it might burst. As they sealed their promises with a kiss, a wave of cheers and applause washed over them from their friends, colleagues, and chosen family. But they heard it as a distant hum, lost in the quiet universe of each other. They pulled apart only to rest their foreheads together, just as they had that first night, and the world felt perfectly, brilliantly in balance. Later, under a canopy of stars, they danced, wrapped in each other's arms. Chloe, beaming and proud in her maid of honor dress, cut in, pulling first her mother and then Elara into a fierce, happy hug. The healing was complete. Their foundation was solid. Elara no longer saw the beautiful, forbidden secret or the student's mother. She saw her wife. Maya no longer saw the cautious tutor or a path not taken. She saw her future. Hand in hand, they turned to face their guests, their smiles radiant. The equation of their lives had been complex and unpredictable, but the solution was elegantly simple. They were no longer a story of a secret affair, but a testament to a love that was passionate, profound, and unbreakable. And together, their forever was just beginning.